Joining me today is Dr Helen Szoke, Commissioner at the Victorian Equal Opportunities and Human Rights Commission. She'll be speaking at IR's Correctional Services Healthcare Summit, which takes place on the 20th to 21st of October 2011 in Melbourne. Helen, thanks very much for joining me today.
Our pleasure.
First of all, what do you believe to be the biggest challenge facing correctional healthcare in Australia?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge is that good practice should apply to the healthcare of prisoners in its same way that it does to everyone in society, and that really means it has to be client-focused. It has to be targeted to the needs of individual prisoners. The issue of continuity of care is really important, particularly because prisoners move around a lot, and also adopting a holistic approach to health care. And finally, just managing that transition from prison. We know that morbidity of prisoners is a significant issue. I guess in some ways their time in prison is an important opportunity to try to get them ready for their life post-prison.
And how can human rights help to build healthier prisons?
Well, in Victoria we do have a Human Rights Act. We have the Charter of Human Rights, and this means that correctional authorities have an obligation to act in ways that are consistent when they are making decisions and delivering services. What that means in a practical sense is that a human rights framework helps them think about prisoners as people who are obviously serving a sentence but who still have human rights considerations that have to be taken into account. I suppose the most notable example of that we've had in Victoria is the Castles case, where a woman prisoner wanted to access IVF treatment, and one of the issues, I guess, about having a human rights charter there was that it directed a more tailored response to the individual medical needs of a female prisoner. There are limitations on prisoners' rights. What the Charter of Human Rights helps us to do is to make sure that those limitations are reasonable and proportionate.
The Alexander Maconochie Centre is the first correctional centre run in accordance with the ACT Human Rights Act 2004. Do you think it's been a success in your opinion?
Well, certainly this centre had the very active engagement of the ACT Human Rights Commissioner, Dr Helen Szoke, and she undertook a fairly hands-on human rights approach in the development of this centre. It's early days, but an independent review of the prison in April of this year reported that whilst there'd been some operational shortcomings, there was no evidence of human rights cultural problems, and on balance the centre had good systems and processes in place to protect and uphold human rights of the people that are in there. So that's a good start, I think, and as I said, it is early days, and I guess the important thing is that the human rights framework in the ACT enables a framework against which future evaluation should occur.
With the mooted expansion of prisons in Victoria, what opportunity exists to utilise the Charter of Human Rights?
Well, we would see that, similar to the ACT development, that a human rights approach should be adopted in the development of new correctional facilities, and also where there might be upgrades or modification of existing facilities. The building of new prisons is a perfect opportunity to actually say, how do we look at the physical infrastructure, but then how do we build an environment that takes into account the human rights of people who'll be restrained and limited in there serving their custodial sentences. We see that that's an investment for their post-prison life as much as it is for ensuring a harmonious, as far as you can, in prison environment.
How can Australia learn from successful international programs?
Look, there really is more research that needs to be done, particularly where there are other human rights instruments such as New Zealand and Canada. And I think that one of the good things about this program that's being run is that we'll be able to learn from prison healthcare in the United Kingdom. So I think we can always learn from examples overseas, but this is an area that needs a lot more attention.
Helen, you're speaking at IR's Correctional Services Healthcare Summit, which takes place on the 20th to 21st of October 2011 in Melbourne. What are the key benefits of events such as these?
Well, I think any opportunity to bring experts in the field together is important. The benefit of this summit is that there really will be a range of perspectives looking at prisoners' healthcare needs. So some of those will be clinical, some of them will be human rights, some will be from the custodial services themselves. And, you know, as I've said, I think the important thing about this is that prisoners still do have human rights even when they're in custodial care, and one would hope that their needs being attended to within the prison system is an investment for their post-release back into the community, and that should be the object of rehabilitation, and that is as much about healthcare needs in the very broad sense as it is about their actual behaviour.
Helen Szoke, many thanks for your time today. We're looking forward to your presentation in Melbourne in October.
Thank you very much.